Hey, everybody. I'm Chris Metzler, Director of Programming here at SF Indie Fest. If you might have kind of looked on the website or read in the press, we're actually celebrating our 25th anniversary this year of bringing some of the most interesting, irreverent, and kind of just cool films from around the world. Um, our founder, Jeff Ross, kicked off this festival 25 years ago. I don't think he ever imagined that he'd be in the film festival business 25 years later, but filmmakers keep on making really cool films that we want to share. And even with the pandemic, we keep on chugging along. And so, one of the reasons why we're kind of taking place in this kind of hybrid environment of both films live at the Roxy and here virtually. You've just had a chance to see the really wonderful film Stand By for Failure. And I think you can understand why we programmed it, because this basically just kind of captures the spirit of SF Indie Fest in so many different ways. And we're lucky enough to have the filmmaker and some of the Negative Land members here. So welcome, everybody. And if you could introduce yourselves, we'll start off with Ryan.
Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm the director of Stand By for Failure.
Welcome.
Mark.
Hi, yeah, I'm Mark. I've been doing this Negative Land thing for 43 years, something insane like that. Yeah. So, yes, David.
Okay. Yeah, I'm David, but I usually go by the Weatherman, and on social media I go by Buddy Runyon. And
we don't know why.
No, well, actually, a deceased member of Negative Land made that up for my email in the 1990s when we first got on the internet, and it just kind of stuck. I like that name.
So it's Richard's fault.
Yeah.
All right.
And I'm John Leidecker, and I've been working with the band for 35 years and joined officially about 10 ago.
Very cool. Well, thanks again for sharing your guys' stories. Maybe a good place to kind of jump in, Ryan, is that, making a documentary is a big effort, and was wondering, like, how did you kind of first hear about the Negative Land story and knew that you wanted to kind of jump feet first into telling the story?
Well, I had made my first documentary, which was about this punk rock bar in Seattle, and I was having a screening at an independent theater in Seattle, and the person who was kind of hosting the screening, I was kind of complaining about music licensing to her, about how there's all these different licenses, mechanical licenses, sync licenses, and master licenses, but none of them they all seem to kind of funnel into to corporations. And I just sort of felt like I'm spending all this money on music licensing, and you're just basically sending it all to giant corporation. So as I was whining about that, she mentioned Negative Land, and she knew Mark Hostler and primarily Mark, right? And so we sort of embarked on kind of just filming a tour. It wasn't like we're gonna make a Negative Land documentary right away. We were just gonna go on tour and kind of see how it went, and just film and just kind of elbow our way in and do some stuff. And it's been about 8 years since that time. And this came together very quickly, but in a way that was mostly just using the existing Negative Land footage. So it came together in a different way, but yeah.
And
but Brian, what was compelling enough about it that you've just killed yourself making this film? The amount of work and effort and energy and time you put into it is so incredible. Yeah. And so what made you want to do that?
Yeah, what made me want to do that? Well,
yeah.
To me, this film says a lot, and I don't even know the full extent of what it says, but there is this infinite amount of media that Negative Land has produced, and it's all saying lots of different things, and there's that was always the question: what's the story, what's your angle, what's it about? And I still can give 10 different answers for that. Because to me, the media, I tried to let the media speak for itself, because it doesn't have an agenda, and it doesn't have a mission statement, and it doesn't have an angle to it. But to me, I think it's the way that I put it together is to me, it's a moving story about people responding to the world around them and the technologies around them, and being creative in an authentic way that's often hard to see and find. And so it's just, I think that's what drew me to Negativland in the first place, was just it's not made with an agenda. It's made with an authenticity and a genuine reaction to the materials and the world, and just, it's more like it's play, but it's serious. I don't know. Is that
Well, the other thing you said to me when you were working on, and we should say to people watching this, that we've worked with Ryan long enough that we just trust her implicitly, her creative impulses and her aesthetic, her approach, her ethic. So we just opened up our archives to her completely, totally, without trying to have any or influence on what she would do. We just trusted that she was going to do something that was really incredible. And I think it really is it is itself like a collaged work of art about artists who do stuff with collage. And what Shen-Xing shared with me early on was that it wasn't trying to tell the details of our story, the lawsuits, the hoaxes, the pranks. Like it's going to touch on all that, but that what interested her was more conveying, I think you said, our method and our madness, like our creative, our way of seeing the world and how we approach it and engage with it and chew it up and spit it back out. And I just thought that sounded like that was the key way to make something about Negativland, was, because if you tried to really tell the detailed narrative of our story, you'd have to make a 12-hour movie. It's impossible. And I think it wouldn't really be in keeping with how we operate and how we create. We don't want to explain how all the sausage was made,
Most definitely. And so as you kind of went from kind of capturing kind of like performance footage to knowing that you're going to construct the story, how do you think kind of the methodology of the band, the collective, kind of shaped the way that you kind of decided to tell the story?
That's a good question. I think I've learned a lot since I started working with Negativland. I think that I do try to be true to what I think the ethos is, and it's not always easy. I mean, Mark and David and John have been extremely supportive, and like Mark said, have sent me this, volumes of footage that they've been recording over their lifetimes, and didn't really tell me what to do with it or anything. And I took some license with it, but I think I'm still learning what what it all means and what it's about. But I think it's almost like going to a seminar, a long seminar or something.
Well, there's something I would say which you would never know just from watching the film. It goes beyond trust. Like Ryan is family. She's the director of the last 5 videos that accompanied the last 2 albums, and I've watched those videos way more than I've listened to the records. And those videos probably are how many people really found their way to the records. Like there are many ways in which she's in the band, so whatever decisions she made in trying to tell the story of the last 45 years, the film is a collage. It's a collage in the same way that the videos that she made for the music work. So it's not even trust. Like the film just happened because she's just sort of there. She's already family. So it's way beyond the normal relationship one has with somebody making a documentary film about a subject.
When you started to kind of dig in, I mean, obviously you've documented so many different things over the years. Was there any hesitation of like wanting to kind of in some ways give up that control and kind of like have the story be told, or was it kind of a relief to have somebody from the outside that you trusted just to kind of like discover and kind of sift through it? So was it one of those things you were excited about when you knew that it was going to be a documentary, or was there any trepidation? Just giving you guys familiarity with the media.
Well, I would say I just get embarrassed seeing myself on a screen. So there's that, right? Which is just hard for me. It's just kind of hard for me. But no, we've been working with Ryan for so long that she is Negativland has a kind of an amorphous, cloudy sense of who's exactly in the group anyway, and that's always been true for the entire duration of the group. And so it's, we don't even say, we don't say who's in the group on most of our records, our bio and all that. So there was the more that we work with Ryan and over the years, there was a sense like what John was saying. It's like you're kind of like part of the group, kind of as much as a lot of other people are that we work with. And it's very hard to find our ethic and aesthetic and approach and the way we see the world and how it turns into our creativity is so peculiar and it's so odd that it's very hard to find people where you can connect and trust them. And so, but once you do, like you're like, hey, I totally respect you and trust you. And so it was sort of fantastic to feel safe about handing over, all of our photos, the old posters, the
And
footage.
David, the film really is
David
about
can talk
you.
about this. David's home
David,
movie.
the film's about you. How do you feel about it?
David's home movies,
I'm trying not to cover your voices. That's why I'm not talking too much.
Yeah.
Well,
So what did
But
you
David, you could talk
Yeah,
also about all your footage. You have your home videos you've been
Okay.
you have going back. You have hours and hours and hours and hours that you gave to Ryan.
Yes, it starts all the way back. I think the earliest thing was from 1956. I was 2 years old. And then 10 years later in 1966, I got my first tape recorder, and I've been hooked ever since, just recording and saving stuff. And I've got loads of stuff Ryan doesn't even know about yet. And then my 8mm
Oh no!
movies. I don't know if she's even checked that out. There's so much stuff. It's overwhelming. All my family pictures. I like to record home video of the holidays, my mother and my grandmother cooking turkey in the kitchen and then interacting with them. I even set up we call a talkback system. So from the previous year, I'd play back what they said while they were cooking turkey and then get their response the next time when they're cooking. And it was kind of fun. Yeah, I don't know. I just like doing recording.
Well, you've been documenting your family, yes, for your whole life. And from the very first record Negativland ever made, that his material was made its way into our records and the liner notes and that the stuff of your mom and your grandma cooking and talking about turkey, all that stuff. It was in there from the very, very beginning. And of course, you're the thread that goes through the whole Brian's whole movie.
What's the thing that what do you think, where's the impetus to kind of document and create in that way, do you think? Where did that come from, David?
I honestly don't know. I just started doing it. I got hooked on this real inexpensive tape recorder back in the 60s. And I used to keep toads as pets. So I thought I might want to record the toads. I brought them into my mother's kitchen, into the kitchen sink, and I recorded them jumping into the sink while it was full of water. And that I really like doing that. I don't know why. I just want to keep going with that sort of thing. And I've been wanting every day I think about new things to record.
Can you tell everyone about the names you gave to your toads and why you gave them
Yeah,
those names?
Wondering if that was even proper. Okay. Yeah, I named my toads after grades of gasoline. And mainly the two main toads I had, there was regular plumper, a female, and super plumper, the male. And one thing about male toads, you pick them up and they make a funny noise. And what that is, in the mating season, when toads are like along the edges of creeks, there you can go look at them. They look like sandwiches. They're together. And if a male toad decides to get on top of another male toad, and the bottom one will squeak and let the other one know that that's not a female. So I've always found that fascinating, and I often recorded toads squeaking. In fact, I even used toads in a performance one time. I had one kind of attach itself to my arm. So
Didn't it do toad juice all over your arm during our
yes,
performance?
one of them did. I had a, and
Yeah.
I don't know, I think that might have been super plumper. I can't remember. That was so long ago. God almighty.
You given some of the time, like if you were to start the band today, like how do you think it would be different, I guess, based on the technology that exists, but also just what's happened in society? And
Should
why
I
do you-
answer that?
Yeah, I'm
Ryan
sure
should answer that.
start a
I think
band.
John should answer that one.
No, Ryan. I think Ryan should answer that.
John should. All right, I'll take a stab, but then John, I
Yeah.
think you need to get your answer as well. I don't know. Well, I mean, Mark, you were the one who declared it a band, right? So
No, I've never wanted to call it a band, actually, no.
Wait a minute.
But we
Well, hold it.
gave it a
I'm not-
name.
You're
We
on
named it
camera
like
saying,
it was a
I
band.
think we should call it a band.
Yeah. Well, I mean that we should give it a name like it was a band to present it in a kind of a pop cultural context. Yeah, that was kind of the idea. And so
Well-
it wouldn't be relegated to the experimental music bin in the back of the store.
I think, one
As
of the
I've
big
said, yeah, so that I have said, yeah.
so one of the big things I think people are so one thing that's happening now is it's always been about what is creativity and what's it for, what's the purpose of it. In the United States, or I guess the world, the purpose of anything is to make a business and money. And because with money you need money to survive. But to me, Negativland, the purpose of it has never been about capitalism and making a statement and even putting yourself on display, doing a performance or a show or a showcase or something like that. To me, Negativland is not about that as well. And in that way, I don't think it would be that different with today's technologies. I think it would be the same. And in fact, it may continue because it is a sort of more of an approach than a product. There have been products, but it's not, I don't think it ends when the people are gone.
John,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Well, I've taken to calling the group sort of a meta media band, where the pleasure of it comes from, insights into why we like art itself. And so, you sample something that was written by somebody else, and you remix it, and you just gain insight into why we like music, how it works, how a tape recorder works, how a sampler works, and then increasingly over the last 5 years, how social media works. Like, where does this come from? And I think kids inherently know that the way music is sold to us as entertainment or as content or a product. That's not what music is. Music happens because people have to make it. David just has to record the toads jumping into the sink. And so I have no idea. I have no idea how we'd go about or what a modern version of the group would be, because actually, it's
We are the
incredibly
modern
fringe.
version of the
It's
group right now.
it's very fringe, and a lot of the things that this band stood for in the 80s and 90s, where the counterculture lived, has completely shifted. All of the issues that used to be left wing are now right wing, and kind of vice versa. So I have no idea what it would look like. It will probably just be the next media entirely, and I think it's one of the reasons why our audience remains so incredibly fringe, is because it's very confusing tracking what all this stuff is. Whatever it is, it just happens. We don't know.
I have a slightly bigger picture answer to that question. That I think that looking back to the impulses, which were pretty instinctive, not very intellectualized, and they became more so as the years went by. But I think that there's this, I think for me, as a fan of weird, strange, creative, unusual art, music, film, etc., it's stuff that's kind of expanding human consciousness and human understanding of what it is to be human and to be creative and how to see the world and experience the world. What are the boundaries of that? What's acceptable, what's not? And I think that as kids, we were drawn to making stuff that clearly wasn't in the mainstream. We were making stuff that sounded like things we'd never heard, but that was exactly why it was exciting. We knew the audience would be fringe. It was then, it is now, it always will be, but there was something so compelling and inspiring and motivating about trying to do your best to tinker around the edges of what it is to, in this case, to what is music, what is sound. But in the bigger sense, I think it's part of it's that artists, one of the things artists do is they're kind of the antenna of humanity and culture, and the ones that are out on the very edges are kind of picking up on new signals, new ideas, and then reporting back to the other humans what they've discovered, and they're kind of then expanding on the our whole experience of being human. And that's kind of a gigantic figure. But I've actually just been thinking about this just recently, getting older. I'm about to turn 61, thinking back on what I've been doing my whole life. Why? What does it all mean? Why do we still do it now after all these years? But yeah, expanding our consciousness and other people, and hoping other people come along with us on our little weird journey, and for where we show them what we're discovering. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think that.
Why it's so fun.
Doesn't mean I didn't just take a bunch of LSD.
You didn't? I also think, it's about I think as people, as humans, what you want to laugh, you want to have a reaction, you want to feel something, and you want to share that feeling with people. And I think that that's when Negativland makes stuff, it's to get a laugh, it's to get people mad, it's to have a reaction. And it isn't trying to provoke necessarily. You're trying to get a reaction in yourself in what you see. So like if you edit together something and it makes you laugh, then it works, or you edit something together and it makes you confused, maybe it works. But I think it's about making those connections too and creating energy with everything, with the technologies and with the recordings. And
I also think it's a way we've kept our own sanity living in a world that's pretty dark and insane. And so one way you process it is through, in our case, we literally are ingesting all of this media and information around us and then chewing it up, and we do spit it back out in that, and we're using the literal actual bits and pieces of the media to then spit it back out in our vomit, our
Right.
negative land vomit. And people, it seems to be of value to people, but also I feel like it's a way for us to try and get our heads around the world that we live in.
Very cool. I think that captures it all well. I want to, thank you for, Ryan, for making this really cool film. And then for all of you, Mark, David, and John, for just doing what you do in the world. This is one of those films that I hope for the audience at home is that this is a film that will kind of sit with you for the next few days, and you'll be talking about it over the dinner table or at the bar or, at the backyard party. And so I think it raises lots of interesting questions and insights. So thank you very much, and keep on doing what you guys do.
And thank you, Ryan, for making the ding dang thing.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for everything. It's I'm honored and am honored, and I know I could probably make another 5 films with the different footage that sent. And I should
We'll be
say,
sending you your
know,
complimentary yeah.
for everybody that's just watched the film, I did want to mention that like all the footage is Negativland footage, like all the overlays, all the collage elements and things like that. It's stuff that Mark and Richard and Don and David and John and Peter and Chris and Ian and Peter, and that's different Peter. It's like stuff that they have been creating over the past,
That's
4
right.
5 years.
You ingested us and shoot us up.
That's
and spit
right.
it out. Right. That's right. I just realized this.
Very
We'll be
cool.
sending you your complimentary toe juice soon. Look for it in the mail.
Be careful.
Thanks again, guys.